With the Advantech subfloor assembly, you can be sure that you're building a reputation on something stronger. And the best builders, well, they may always stand apart, but they never stand alone. So ask yourself, are you bringing your A game?
Hey everybody, welcome to my studio. So, Steve Basic Architect here, and this is the very first video of a series of videos, probably looking at upwards of maybe a couple dozen videos, where we discuss the design and refinement process of the design through one of my recent projects. So, as you know, I am an architect, and two, I am one of the hosts of the Unbuild It podcast. You can find me there, listen to that. We talk about some great stuff. I'm also a contributor on the Build Show Network, so I do a lot of videos and technical stuff for them, so go check out that. But this is a real kind of cohesive, step-by-step, let's walk through the design and drawing development for a project. So this is a project that was constructed by Aarow Building and owner Jake Bruton, who is also a co-host of the podcast. But anyways, got my good friend Big Red, nice big red marker, helps me out walking through the discussion of all the drawings and details and highlighting some of the important concepts and points that I'm trying to make. So without further ado, let's get started with video one. Let's have at it. So we broke out the site plan to start here. A couple things of note. We call this the Hilltop Aarow project. And hilltop meaning, obviously, self-explanatory. It's on top of the hill. You can see as the contours are arranged here that they slope downhill. Right. So literally, the project is on the hilltop. So you come up this driveway here, you have a motor court kind of here organized. We have the garage here that has an in-law suite above that garage, and consequently the homeowner's using that as a wood workshop. Right now he built some absolutely gorgeous furniture, and then this is their two-car garage. The house is oriented over here. You can see it's basically three big pieces where we have the living wing, let's call it the utility space, and then this is the owner's suite over there. So there were a couple things when we were working with the clients and standing literally on the job site out here before the house was built. And one thing of note was the view off the hill here, that these trees actually went down and you could literally see over the top of them, which really kind of sets up that access, not to mention that, north is in this direction here. So that gives you very good south-facing roof plane there, so that if we wanted to add solar panels in the future, we have this long axis roof here that we could fill up. Now, when you're starting out on a project and you're working with clients, you're standing there, you talk about, the views off of the hill, and they literally do go on forever off the hill there. But a couple other things that were in play, when you're standing here and you look down the hill this way, you realize that, we knew the driveway was coming up, but as you approach the house coming up the hill, you really get a nice view there also. So there were a couple things when we were laying out the house here. One, we get that view off the hill, which is pretty much, this whole wall is glass at the end. But we also provided very large windows here so that you get that view down the hill here, and as well as the security feature of seeing anybody that's going to drive up from, the kitchen or living space. Consequently, this also puts the owner's suite in more of a private, secluded area over here where it's quiet, it's a little closer to the trees here, but they still get that beautiful view out. We have a big piece of glass there, but we'll get into all of that as we get through the plans. But today I just wanted to talk about the placement and how did we start out the project. So again, we stood on top of the hill. You can see the contours here, like I said, going down. As contours get wider, they flatten out a little bit more. So you can see here, it's a pretty steep grade. I don't know, it's probably every bit of like 30, 40 feet from the bottom of the driveway to the top of the hill. So it literally is a hilltop project. And the whole time we stood here, all I could think about was looking off into the distance and how that view, as the farther I looked, kind of faded away into the kind of homogeneous landscape beyond. And what that drove was kind of the parti for the project. So for those of you that don't know what a parti is, I'm going to drop this image over the top of it. And parti is P-A-R-T-I. And what a parti sketch is it's nothing more than the idea, right? It's the idea behind everything kind of merges into that idea. So when we ask questions about the design and we're in refinement stages, we're always linking back to this original parti. So what was it for this project? Well, this is a sketch that I did while sitting in a restaurant after we had our meeting with the clients. The builder and I, Jake Bruton, we went to a restaurant, grabbed a piece of graph paper, grabbed my pen and said, hey, what if we did a house that was, had some solid feature here, and as it migrated to the right off the hill, we had things that were, open air spaces with some concrete piers and then maybe some kind of deck and cantilever that goes out, but the building really finishes at this small point. And somehow we can get the roof to do the same thing and have that small point. But the idea was, as the building moves across off the hill towards that view, it becomes less solid, more airy, kind of like that view, and becomes more homogeneous with that landscape beyond. So the parti is kind of suggesting that the building kind of dissolves into the air as it moves across and into that view, as well as the whole time kind of providing that whole story in a lateral format, so that as I come up the hill, that parti is very, very strong in understanding that I have solid, I have some kind of mid-range design features, and then we have the more airy features down at the end. So that was the parti for the project, and we'll come back and talk about that as we go. Lastly, I just wanted to throw this up. This is kind of just a little marker sketch of the project. No, we didn't use those colors. It's not an orange house. But as an architect, it's really exciting in that when you're designing something, you get to design it from a lot of different perspectives. Like we just talked about the parti and this kind of very, I won't say intellectual, but very philosophical manner of how we look at the house, right? So we break down the house into these concepts that we can talk about philosophically to understand, are they working together? Are they providing that cohesive package? But at some point, we have to change those philosophical features into concrete, wood, nails, glass, and the building. And that refinement through the design, which we're going to go on that journey here, is the part that's really exciting about being an architect. But I throw this up there because not everything is a hard line drawing. Sometimes we need to just play around with our little sketch pens and markers and get a very loose feel for what things are happening in this building and how roof lines and how things are going, and this nice big cantilever here and this nice big cantilever here and this suggestion that we're creating there, and this is kind of letting your mind flow. Break out the markers. There's no right or wrong. There's just getting ideas on the paper. And for any of you that have gone through a handful of grades in school, you realize, hey, when you sit down and you're tasked to write that composition or that essay or whatever, the hardest part is getting those first couple words on the paper. Well, this is that first couple words, right? And I mean, this one was a little ways down the road when we had it, but it's that freedom to draw loosely and come up with some ideas like, hey, let's, maybe these rails and these rails, there's a connection here that we have an airiness, but this has solid pieces behind it. This doesn't. So that's a more airy feature than this, but there is this visual connection between the front and back. Those are those refinements that we go through, but it's, this is that sketch of the very first couple words that we threw down on the page. So anyways, that's the start of this project. I look forward to bringing you along. We have a whole series of videos that are going to be exciting. Of course, for those of you that aren't familiar, this is, my good buddy, Big Red. Big Red comes out, and as you can see, he's a graphic explainer. So anyways, hope you enjoyed that.